This is Viterbi Voices.
Coming to you from the University of Southern California, Viterbi School of Engineering.
We're here to give you the inside scoop on research, classes, student life, and so much more.
All of these shared by students, faculty, alumni, and other members of the USC community.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Viterbi Voices. As usual, I am one of your hosts. My name is Paul Ledesma, Executive Director of Undergraduate Admission here at the USC Viterbi School of Engineering.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sophie Patel. I'm your other co-host. I'm a senior studying computer science and doing my master's in engineering management.
And as we do this time of year, we've got another episode from another one of our current students who's joining us as a co-host here today. Go ahead and introduce yourself, co-host.
Hello, my name is Xavier. I've been here once before. I'm a sophomore in civil engineering, emphasis building science. I'm part of ASCE, ITE, and various clubs on campus. And I have been thinking about career stuff, which is the motivation for this podcast.
Remind people where you're from, Xavier.
Oh, right. I'm from Morristown, New Jersey. I'm like 20 minutes from Philly. So very proud after the Super Bowl win.
I was going to say, this is like a Go Birds podcast then, right? A big Philly Eagles fan?
Absolutely. Go Birds. Well deserved.
That's exciting. Very, very excited for you. What did you do for the Super Bowl?
Unfortunately, I had a midterm the following day, so I was studying during the Super Bowl. So
that's
I would
not fun.
No, it wasn't, but just engineering work during the commercials and then cheering on the birds during all the various touchdowns.
In my opinion, the commercials are the best part. I wouldn't want to miss out on those.
I agree. That is the best part. What did you do for the Super Bowl, Safia?
I was driving back down from San Francisco.
Oh, jeez.
So also missed the Super Bowl, but we were watching the halftime show like on our phones during it. Yeah, that's what we tune in for. I don't really support either of those teams, so it didn't really affect me, but it was still chill. What about you, Paul?
Good stuff. We had a get together at a friend's house. I don't have a total count on people. I was leaning towards somewhere around 60, 70 people. And my friend I talked to the other day said, no, it's probably 50, maybe topped out on 50. And I'm like, so it's somewhere between 50 and 70 people who were there. Yeah, crazy. It was a big get together. There was, 3 TVs. There was one outside the backyard, one in the living room, and one in the garage. And so I think it was, I basically just stayed in the garage as a heads up.
What team were you supporting? The Bird or Eagles?
I don't have a dog in this fight at all.
Fair.
What's that?
Fair. Very fair.
Yeah, I really don't care. However, I was rooting for the Chiefs. I think it's exciting that they're going to be able to pull off a three-peat, be able to be the first team in history. I mean,
I feel like that's a controversial take as someone, because everyone's just mad at them for beating the 49ers.
See, I disagree. I was having this conversation with a friend of mine. Why be mad at somebody just because they're good?
Okay, true. Good point.
This idea of like making them the villain of this whole process is super.
I hate to say it, but if they were good, they wouldn't have been down 34 in the third quarter.
No, they got everything handed to them during that Super Bowl. They did not play well. I'm just saying, going into the Super Bowl, the chance that they could actually pull off for the first time in history a 3-time repeat Super Bowl champion. I was like, that'd be really cool to see and be part of. I didn't care. I wasn't upset. Once the Eagles started pulling away, I'm like, well, there goes that whole thing. I'm a fan of good athletes in general. And so was it Mailata? Is it Mailata?
Yeah. Thinking about these teams.
Like, he's an animal, like, just to watch him dominate. And Jalen Hurts was playing a phenomenal game across the board. And the Chiefs were not doing anything at all. Like, Kelsey wasn't playing well. Mahomes was not playing well. Even our boy Juju Smith-Schuster, like our USC boy right there, he had some rough. It was just not going well. And so to watch the Eagles pull away, I was like, yeah, they're just the better team, and hats off to them. But honestly, I didn't have a strong fight. I was there for the food. I was there for the commercials.
What was the best commercial?
In my opinion?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's a rough one. What is the one I like the most?
I liked the Uber Eats one. I thought that was
Uber Eats one. Yeah, the McConaughey one. That was hilarious.
Yeah, that was good.
I think I'm with you on that one. I think I'm probably in the minority that I really thought the Mountain Dew Baja Blast with Seal was funny. I think people were weirded out by it, but I thought it was funny. Um, I thought that
Thoroughly
was,
unexpected.
yeah, exactly. I thought that was super fun. Safi, did you see any of them? What was your favorites?
I honestly didn't really see any. I heard some controversy. I can't speak about the Poppy one. But that's the only one I really
What
heard
was the
about, or like the
controversy about
marketing that
Poppy?
they've been doing. It was like about how they have been sending out like these giant vending machines to different influencers and something how it related back to their ad, and people are just hating on them and everyone's moving over to Olipop apparently. I don't know all the lore, but
Okay, so here's the thing that I've been noticing. There is a number of over and over again, countless
Mhm.
controversies or outrage, which is just paper thin about nonsense that's going on online. And it's like people are upset that like this one thing may not be the thing. Like, who cares? Like, enjoy. Like, I'm a fan of people being fans of things. If you like something,
Yeah,
you like it. If not, who cares? Move on. Do the other thing. Like, why is there this now online outrage that is like
our
a paper
generation
thin?
loves to have something to talk about. They want some discourse all the time.
And
Well,
too
that
often it's how many people are really, is this really a problem that they're thinking about?
I have
is
no
it,
clue.
yeah, is it actually a problem? Or someone said something online and then someone just repeats and said, "Oh, I heard this is really bad." It's like,
Yeah.
what? Which is kind of like how you just came with like, "Oh, I heard that was like really controversial about this one thing." I'm like, was it? Because
I've never heard of that.
No, I honestly didn't even watch the rest of the ads. Again, I was all over the Bay Area while the Super Bowl was going on, so I had no clue until I got back what the ads even were, what the halftime show was. But maybe I'll do a recap this weekend so I can get all the lore on the different commercials.
well, case in point, I mean, like, assuming you're a fan of the halftime show,
Yeah, I thought the halftime show was good.
Xavier, what do you think?
I thought it was good. My brother and I have the same opinion that it could have used a little bit fireworks flame, or they could have turned up his volume. I feel like his mic
Oh,
was too low.
you're talking about like the kind of entertainment value, like the
Entertainment value was great. It just I thought it could have been louder. I thought they could
Mm,
have boosted his volume a little bit. I wanted him to
I
boom
see,
in the stadium, and I
I
felt like
see.
they were just like, let's just not crank it.
Are both of
Crank it.
you or either of you Kendrick Lamar fans?
I am now.
I'm a SZA fan.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah,
You're gonna say I'm sorry, you say you're what?
I said I'm a SZA fan.
Oh, you're a SZA fan. Okay.
Yeah,
So
I
you're
was
just
more
waiting
there
for
for
that.
SZA. I appreciate Kendrick, but I wouldn't say like, oh, I'm a diehard Kendrick fan, which I feel
Right.
like was a common sentiment throughout this
Right.
weekend.
Right. Right. Well, I
Are
think
you
that
a fan of either of them?
well that's the thing that's interesting to me is that like talk about outrage. Like people are either like saying you hated it or loved it.
Mm,
And I just think it's you have to appreciate, in my opinion, because I'm not a huge Kendrick Lamar fan. I don't think I'm appreciative enough of Kendrick Lamar. I don't know enough about him.
mm.
And so like the pop songs that came on, like whether it was All the Stars with SZA, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When All the Stars came on, and then of course everybody went nuts with uh what's the other one? The Drake song.
No, not
They
like
Not Like
us.
Us.
Yeah.
Oh, yep.
Like yeah, there's a pop culture phenomenon to that, but I think overall the narrative and the, for lack of a
Mhm.
better term, the poetry that basically
Oh
just
yeah.
got dropped on everybody in the guise of a Super Bowl halftime show
I think it was
was
really cool.
outstanding.
Yeah.
But to your point,
Poetry's the
Xavier,
perfect word. Poetry's the perfect word. He's a
but to your
poet.
point, that's also probably why you thought like, oh, there's nothing explosive about it. I'm like, because
Yeah.
it
It was
was
like
a
the
different
undertone.
it was a
Oh yeah.
different thing, and I thought it was very very cool. And I've watched it now a few times and trying to educate myself on some of the background and some of the songs
Mhm.
and the lyrics and stuff because I don't know it that well. And so overall, it's just like very very impressive how it
Oh
was
yeah.
done. Choreography alone, I thought was amazing. Like there's some really cool stuff.
The intentionality of everything that he does is
Yeah.
what I think is so cool.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. So it was cool. Granted, I didn't see it during the Super Bowl because at that time I was playing cornhole in the backyard. But I went home and
As
watched
one
it
does.
afterward. Yeah, so it was an important element of getting into a tournament, and so that was
Yeah,
what was happening.
totally.
Respect.
Uh, anyways, that's all the important stuff. But Xavier, you brought us an episode. You started to talk about it, and then I hijacked the conversation. What is this episode all about, bud?
This episode is largely about the Viterbi Career Fair, which in our time happened yesterday, and in terms of release date, happened a few days ago. Mm-hmm. And I would like to give a brief description, explanation of what exactly the career fair is, and then provide some student perspectives and how and preparation, as well as some employer perspective and some expectations, because I decided to ask them about it, and just kind of give that give a recap for our listeners.
All right. Very cool. Well, let's get out of the way and hand it over to you to walk them through the career fair, the spring career fair, because there are two. There's one in the fall and there's one in the spring. And so this is the spring one, and we'll have you go through that process, and we'll be right back here on the back end of this episode to talk a little bit more about it.
All right. Welcome. As I said in the intro, my name is Xavier, and this episode is about the Viterbi Career Fair, which just happened this past week. Unusual for LA and SoCal in general, it was a very rainy career fair. Usually, it takes place outside. It did take place outside as well, but every spring and fall, there's a Viterbi-specific career fair, which takes place outside on Truesdale Parkway. I believe it's Parkway. It's the big, long road that connects one side of campus to the other side of campus. If you're a student, you're very familiar. It's the very large gated entrance that's near the Village, and it cuts all the way across campus in front of the administration building, in front of Tommy Trojan, in front of Traveler, all the way down to where you would leave to get to the football games. And this is a very, very long and wide stretch, making it ideal for setting up the career fair there. A bunch of tables are set out. Employers are given specific tables to sit at. There are umbrellas and placards to say what's the name of the firm, what kind of majors are they looking for. Additionally, posted at the ends, there are tables of career fair staff who they have a bunch of food and beverages for the employers because we want to take care of the guests who are so graciously visiting our campus. But also they have QR codes and PDFs for the whole list of all the employers that are coming so that you can reference who you'd like to see and where are they. The whole thing is pretty well organized. And usually it's a bright sunny day, and sometimes it's warm, sometimes it's not. Walking around, meeting various career people. This is the first time that I've seen it to be actually raining, but people still showed up, employers still showed up. We took refuge under umbrellas, some damp resumes and damp flyers, but all in all, still a good experience, still worth going regardless of weather, unless there's a hurricane, which is fairly unlikely. Okay, with that out of the way, I'm going to introduce the two people that I'm talking to today, two fellow Viterbi students who were at the career fair. Why don't you introduce yourself first?
Hi, I'm Dylan. I'm a biomedical engineer, and I'm graduating in 2025, December.
And that makes you a
senior.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm a junior in computer science, and I'm graduating 2026 spring.
And as mentioned in the introduction, I'm graduating 2027, making me a sophomore, and I'm civil engineering. And the career fair looks pretty different for each of us. But I'm going to ask you guys right now, what were your thoughts going into the career fair? What were you thinking about beforehand?
So going into the career fair, the times that I did go, I was more thinking about how can I get myself out there, get my foot in the door? Because before that, it was a lot of research and a lot of job experience. So preparation looked a lot like looking up the companies that are going to be there. What do they do? How does what they do apply to my major?
Hi there, it's Brooke, one of your Viterbi admission counselors with your mid-podcast message. I want to tell you about our year-round on-campus Visit Viterbi experiences. They're the best way to get to know more about our Viterbi programs. It's a 90-minute session focused on first-year applicants. and it includes an overview of our academic programs and admission process. It's led by one of our very own USC Viterbi admission counselors. So if you'd like to join us on campus, we would love to meet you. Please visit viterbi.link/events, that's VITERBI.link/events to reserve your Visit Viterbi experience. Now back to the podcast.
Kind of similar experience for me. Basically, look up the company, see what roles they want, see what skill sets, because CS is applicable in so many different ways, and they have like what language do you know, what tools, and they go from there. Because you can go from like AI stuff to like back end website to front end website to just software engineering in general. IT.
The roles are important, and what you said, looking them up, is fairly important. We'll talk about that later with perspectives from employers, but Viterbi provides a list of everyone who's going to be there, and also the order in which they'll be, where they'll be, so you can target specific companies and know in advance who should I talk to. And it's good to think about who you're going to talk to before you actually get there.
I was just going to tack on, it's usually nice to also just see what skill sets they want, and so you can come up with like example projects to talk about and like think about, okay, this is what they'd probably be looking for, and then have experiences to talk about in that regards.
That's good. And second question, how'd you guys prepare? Which it sounds like you already began talking about that, which is fantastic. And if you're willing to share, how are you dressed?
I mean, I prepared not the best because I mean
I didn't either for the most recent one.
It was kind of low priority for me most of the time, but mainly it was a lot of just looking up things and just kind of what Rachel talked about, seeing what skill sets they need, thinking about what I'm going to say. And I was dressed as best as I could as a college kid. Which is to say, dress shirt, nice pants, belt.
Yeah, I tend to do polo, dress shirt, polo or dress shirt. Once I did wear like a full jacket, but it was a little bit cold. And then like khaki pants.
I wore slacks, button down. I carried around a blazer. I did not wear the blazer. I carried it around. My mom was like, "You should carry it around. It makes you look more professional." So I carried it around.
Some employers do notice, though. They do notice people who are dressed and not dressed. Some people show up in t-shirt between classes, which if you're between classes, then it is what it is.
I have showed up in a hoodie before. That's all I'm saying.
And in terms of other preparation, you were talking about researching the companies and seeing their skill sets. Mm-hmm. And you also said you kind of prepare project examples?
Yeah, I'm not the best speaker, go figure. So I try and
the CS kid not being a great speaker?
Okay, I see how it is. Come on, we're all Viterbi. Anyway, basically it's me trying to figure out, just like looking up like what questions do they usually ask you, because usually you can find those online, or just think about it like, why our company, what can you contribute, blah, blah, blah. And just like prep kind of for those answers. Because again, I'm not exactly the best speaker.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't really have to do that because BME, they're all looking for like the same thing, I feel like. They either want to stick you in a mechanical engineering role, or if you're going big pharma, that's a completely different thing. I don't even want to get into that.
So yours is a little bit siloed or specific, right?
Yeah, it's pretty, there's like two or three things. You can either, because BME, to be honest, is you're just other engineers, but biology. So like you're
engineers who deal with the living things.
Yeah. Mechanical stuff. But I mean, I didn't have enough experience to pick and choose when I was doing this.
So BME has a number of specific things. CS has a lot of very specific roles, you said, specific skill sets that they're looking for?
Kind of. The most general CS one is just in general software engineering. That one's usually just like, do you know the data structures? Can you make things time efficient? Blah, blah, blah. Then it goes into like the AI, whatever stuff. Usually for AI, I figured out they're usually looking for master's student. Go figure, that's why they go get a master's degree.
Yeah.
Need to do all that complex stuff for the machine learning. Then there's games is also another one in there. That one's usually like more math, physics simulation. It's also different tools, like Unity or Unreal Engine also exists. Although some companies for the games, they'll go with like their own game engine, and in that case, it's usually like a C-based language. And then, let's see, IT, I guess, kind of counts, but also there's the line between computer science and then computer engineering, because one's hardware, one's software, and so it's also figuring that part out. There's also data analysis, which is the analysis. I'm trying to figure out which roles. Usually it's like SQL and like a ton of also efficiency, whatever stuff. Front end, back end for website, and then like stack developer. Those ones are like HTML, CSS, JavaScript for like the front end. Back end, it's going to be
that sounds so much more complicated than what we could. that's
well, it's different languages depending on like which company doing what, trying to do what back end wise.
Do the same companies hire the computer engineers and the software people? Is it the same companies just kind of getting both roles, or is it different companies?
It depends on like what company is looking for yours, because most of, I guess, in terms of like some companies will need like software engineers this certain year or not. But then there's of course always like the big companies where it's like Amazon and Google, and they always take like software engineering, but also those ones is the best. And don't even get me started with leak code and the fact that they have the test for that too. That's not career fair related, but anyway, I digress.
That's post career fair.
I digress. What was the question again?
I don't remember.
It's so different from CE because we have like 3 roles that you can kind of apply to. That it's kind of the same 3 roles that either fall on design side or construction side, but they all have different names based on whatever company you're talking to, and it's just kind of gathering a general terminology that you can then apply, like, oh yeah, project engineer or field engineer, and those refer to completely different aspects of a process. But creating the built environment is such a long and winding process, involves so many people, that there's so many roles that are overlapping and very similar. So for you the terminology seems very specific, and for us it's very general.
And then there's all the robotic roles. Ignoring.
Okay, so moral of the story, CS is complicated. Who would have thought that computer science is hard? And
well, it just has a lot of different pathways, so
all right.
Umbrella term-ish.
So what did you guys do during the career fair itself?
Besides walk around?
Well, yeah, walk people through this, because this is aimed towards high school students who they don't know what a career fair looks like, or at least if they do, good on them. When I was a high school student, I had no idea.
Fair. I appreciate that USC has the little QR code for a map to figure out where companies are located, because sometimes Okay, moving on.
Do you get lost?
Okay, I walked by like one company like twice. I was like that way and then that way, and then I was like, because here's the thing, I prepare like a list of like, okay, this is the ones that I want to go to. So it was me trying to find that company.
I mean,
they're somewhat alphabetized.
Personally, I didn't even realize there was a map.
Somewhat.
I didn't know. I walked around. I'm like, Medtronic's here somewhere. This is year 1. I'm like, Medtronic's here somewhere. I walked up and down 6 times before I found him at the end of the aisle.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, no, I recognized the person, so that was, yeah.
The first time I was there, I didn't know there was a map either. But I also didn't know what companies I was looking for, because I didn't prepare. I just kind of went. I was like, let me try things out. I grabbed a little fancy portfolio that I've had since high school, and I didn't even have a resume, and I was just walking up, and they're like, oh, you look very professional. I was a freshman. I couldn't even apply to the internships yet. But
yeah, print your resumes, guys.
Print resumes. I completely forgot. Print your resumes. Bring your resumes. That's another thing you're going to have. Half the companies will have you scan a QR code and submit it that way, and along with like a form. Other half of the companies will take paper resumes, and so just make sure you have your resume ready.
It's a CS thing. All the BME guys take resumes.
Okay, half the CS, whatever, it's going to be, they're going to have you scan. So if you want to be extra prepared, you can just have it on your phone. Otherwise, you're just going to have to save the tabs and then fill it all out like after the career fair.
Yeah. So career fair, you go, you meet people, you talk to people, you hand over resumes. Networking. This isn't going to, well, we're not going to explain how to do networking, and the short answer for engineers is you do it awkwardly, but it's fine because the employers are engineers too, and sometimes they're also awkward. Sometimes they're polished and they are.
Sometimes they're HR.
Sometimes they're HR. I talked to a lot of engineers who just wanted to get out of the field for a little bit, and some of them were alumni and wanted to return to campus. But after all the resumes and stuff are handed over, how did you guys follow up with the people you talked to? Or did you follow up with the people you talked to? I see you smiling, Dylan.
No.
You did not. Why did you not?
Why did I not? Well, I mean, it's partially because half the time they just go, yeah, apply to this link. And I go, okay, I applied. And then I don't have their email. I should have gotten their email, but I didn't. So there's no way to follow up really if you don't have their email.
So you should get their email.
Yes. Actually, one time I did get this guy's number. So I texted him. He got me a referral, so I got the interview. But then they ghosted me, so whatever.
Well, okay, so following up got you a few steps in, but not all the steps.
No, I'll get you to an interview. Just don't screw that up.
Okay. And how did you follow up?
I know. Okay, sometimes they'll offer you like email whatever stuff. Usually I take it if they offer. I try not to ask because I do know sometimes they just don't. But I guess there's also the idea of no harm in asking. So I guess it's really up to your own personal preference. I will say I have gone to the career fair. Usually what I do is applications. Do it the night of. You went to the career fair? Make sure you do it that night of. Because freshman year I went and I basically applied like a week afterward. Yeah. The lady had given me like her email, and so I was sending stuff through there. And she basically said, sorry, we already figured stuff out. So do it night of. Lesson learned there. And then the other thing was I did receive like emails from people. Like one person, very nice, gave me email. I've been to the career fair since freshman. He gave me his like email 2 or 3 times, and each time he's ghosted me, and it's I don't know. And then I asked my cousin who works at the same company to verify that email is legit, and he said yes. And so I don't know what's up with that.
Maybe they get a lot of emails.
Oh, so I'm assuming it went into like spam or something, but also like nothing's come of it, so that was a flop. And then I also got another email, and that email the person never responded. So,
Yeah. So another moral for our listeners: don't just go with one option. You don't know if you could have a really good conversation, and then the person will forget who you are. Things can fall through. Sometimes people remember you. Often they don't. It's tough.
Yeah, so just because you get an interview doesn't mean you should stop applying. Don't stop applying until you have signed something.
Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb. And of course, like once you've signed something, you should immediately tell people, oh, I signed something, don't schedule me for further interviews if you don't want to waste people's time. But they will waste your time. And they'll take you for interviews, and whether you get it or not, you still have to go and sit for those interviews. And the process takes a while, from what I've heard. I mean, you guys have probably gone through it more than I have. I'm only a sophomore. Well, it's not my fault I'm not there yet. Typically, when I follow up, I'm following up via LinkedIn. I get LinkedIn for a lot of people. I learn names, and even if I don't get contact information, I'm able to look them up because it's a lot of small companies, and I can say, okay, Gilbane, let's make up a name, Sam. Let's see, Sam Gilbane, and maybe I'll recognize a face, maybe I won't. I send out a request, and sometimes they accept, sometimes they don't, and then it's just a short message being like, oh,
Sorry, the name. I was like expecting like John Doe or something, and you just came up with that. And I was like, okay, sorry. Go, sorry.
Random name. Anyway, it's the same thing where you want to reach out soon. You want to do the application soon. You definitely want to follow up soon, because you can be like, hey, do you remember me? We talked about this. Or do you remember me? I was wearing this. And the longer you wait, the less likely they are to remember you. So there's somebody that I followed up very aggressively with, who we're actually hear from in the next section. But there's a certain firm that I'm very interested in applying to later on, so I keep meeting representatives. I keep saying hi at the career fair. I see them at events on campus, to the point where I have I've been recognized, and I have a recognition with some people at this company, which may serve me later once I do interviews and applications. So following up is good. Just do it soon. Otherwise
you'll be like me and living on a prayer.
Bon Jovi.
Yep.
We appreciate Bon Jovi references here. Okay, thank you guys very much. Any last thoughts about career fair for listeners, or is that about it?
Yeah, do your research. Yeah, it's the most important thing. Just do your research.
I will say I find it very interesting. I go in lines and I'm hearing like the people in front of me talk or whatever. And some people I know a strategy is just wandering around the career fair seeing like what names they recognize or whatever and kind of just prepare in line.
Perfect.
That's another one. Well, it also depends because I'm also like running it by my sister because I also tend to slightly over prepare sometimes. And so my sister was also saying, yeah, no, that's a valid strategy. A lot of people do that too. So there's also that way where if you're busy that day, the lines do tend to be long, especially in the fall, depending on which company you're going to. There's that.
I've seen lines that are like 30 people deep and wrap around a building. For civil, there's so many different small groups that lines rarely exceed 4 or 5. Because it's very much like, oh, there's so many groups, you can talk to so many people. But I know that you guys are a little bit more concentrated, right?
There's like 2 booths for BME every year.
There are so many CS majors, let's be real here.
It's like 50% of the school, right?
I don't know, for Viterbi probably, I don't know.
Yeah, for Viterbi, yeah, it's like 50%.
Also bring a friend.
That's good for waiting in line, yeah.
Yeah, you will be waiting in line no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
So be prepared, wait in line, yeah.
Okay. Thank you guys very much. And now that we've heard some student perspectives, let's move on to employer perspectives. During the career fair, after networking, meeting new people, I took the time to ask employers for their perspectives. I spoke to firms in the civil engineering field exclusively, so there's likely major specific wisdom that I've missed. But engineering groups see a lot of overlap in the characteristics of good candidates. I've summarized the responses, and I even got an interview from 2 USC alumni.
I'm Macy Burgard from KPFF, and I graduated USC class of 23.
And then I'm Kenda Finch from KPFF. I graduated in class of 21.
KPFF is a civil design firm with a general civil floor and a structural design floor. Not only do they hire a lot of USC graduates, as you've heard, but they regularly participate in design work for the University Park campus. The first question I asked, what expectations do you have for students walking up to your table?
We're specifically looking for students that are taking civil engineering classes, but kind of broader. I would say people who are confident and personable and have questions, because some students will walk up a little timid and it just doesn't represent them as well, because since we both went to USC, we know they have the knowledge, but you have to just present yourself. And then asking questions, not just the cookie cutter questions, but things you're actually interested in and not just feigned interest, so that the recruiters will notice you.
Yeah, I think we're looking mainly for students that, are able to balance a couple activities. I think it's really important to be able to manage your time and kind of, know how to prioritize things. And then also just looking for people that are willing to put themselves out there and learn. We're not expecting you to know 100% of civil engineering before you start here. Just be able to learn and listen and kind of admit when you don't know what you're doing.
From the other firms I talked to, that being largely construction firms, construction management, construction design, as well as airport authority, that being LAX and the engineering team there, they are expecting and looking for prior experience, which is the hard catch-22. How do you get experience with an internship if you don't have said internship? So the clarifying comment was they want to see internship experience when you're applying for full-time positions. And some firms and some groups at the career fair are applying specifically for full-time. They're not just looking for a summer intern or even a year intern coming out. They are looking for a full-time hire right out of college. That's when they want to see internship experience. But for people trying to get an internship, if you don't have any, they're still looking for prior experience, maybe not with a firm, but in the field. So, for example, construction, if you have personal projects or you have entry-level experience in that field, that can be pretty good. An example that was given by an employer I talked to was he worked as a laborer for a summer in a construction field, basically seeing how contractors do their job, what it's like to experience their job. And then that knowledge, that hands-on experience carried over once he became a field engineer and once he started working in the field and giving directions. Is he understood that other side, and that was experience that he could talk about. Even if it wasn't an internship, it wasn't the same thing he was doing, but it's still entry-level field experience. As good as, to quote him directly, as good as a 4.0 is, if you haven't done anything with that time, it shows. You need an experience that you can talk about. Something that's a conversation starter, something that's related to the field, something that can give you an idea of what you're looking at, even if it isn't exactly an internship. Another thing that they're expecting, that they're looking for, do 10 minutes of research. It doesn't have to be that much, but know the name of the company, know what they operate, bring 1 or 2 interesting facts, have a question. It really shows. It really makes a difference when you come up and the conversation's jump-started. You don't have to ask, what do you guys do? Do you have offices nearby? Which, if it's your first time going to a career fair, sure. There's very few stakes if you're not actively in desperate need of an internship. If you just want to meet people, it's okay to go up and ask what they do and try to get information about the field. That's what I did when I was a freshman. I wasn't applying at that time, but I was asking people, what did they do, just to learn more, to learn a little bit about the field and try to picture it in my head. But if you're trying to work at a company, if you're trying to get an internship at the group, you should do 10 minutes of research and really get a very light feel for what they do. You don't have to know everything, but know 1 or 2 things that you can come and talk about immediately. And that makes an immediate difference with employers, because they will be thinking, oh, this person is interested in us. It's there. We don't have to work together. They want to come here. And that's important. Another thing that firms are looking for is the level of interest. It's the level of interest in a field, how much you want to work in the field, what you want to do, but they're also looking at how interested you are in their firm. So 10 minutes of research can really pay off, and prioritizing the companies that stick out to you or that you're interested in, that makes a difference in your conversations. Another thing that was really interesting, the quote that I got from somebody was confidence with humility. Particularly important for the construction field. But across the board, I heard confidence as really important. Once you're a senior, you have a lot of learning under your belt. You have years of school. You have a lot of knowledge. It's difficult to apply, but you have learned a lot and you have a lot of capabilities, even if you don't realize it yet. And employers prefer people who come up confident because it portrays their capabilities better. It makes a better conversation, and it means somebody's willing to really step in, take opportunities that are presented to them, take their future by the reins, and at the same time, confidence and humility. Because as a senior, you might know a lot, you might have all these book smarts, but you learn so much on the job that you step into an office and maybe you're at square one and you know nothing. And you have a lot of learning to do. The last section that was really interesting and stood out to me, this was particularly from Airport Authority that mentioned this. Some firms are looking to direct recruit people, and they want students that are willing to stick with them and grow for 5 years or 10 years or even longer. They're trying to find people who will be committed to their firm, stay with their firm, and help the firm grow, willing to help grow themselves, and become a valuable asset, not just for 4 years, not just while you're figuring something out, but I'm not going to say forever, but for a very long time. The second question I asked was, did anybody stand out to you today? And if somebody did leave an impression, what did they do?
Kind of similar to the first answer is students that have interest in what we're doing and have questions about, things they really want to learn that they've learned from their classes, and then also students that are well-rounded, involved in things outside of just taking their classes is also something that's, when I see that, I'm like, oh, this person's really cool. Like, I want to hear more from them.
Yeah, I think similar answer. Just there's so many students here that are so involved and so passionate about what they do. So it's amazing to see just how much more impressive people have gotten from even when I went to school. It's crazy how many things people juggle all at the same time.
All right, thank you so much. Maybe it was a fault of the dreary weather, but there was less to say for standout than there was to say for expectations. A lot of students kind of check the boxes, but what you can really do to leave an impression and stand above your peers is professionalism. That involves how you speak, that involves how you dress, how you prepare yourself, and really demeanor in general. Having an elevator pitch is really good and really important, and also the bane of my personal existence. Being able to summarize yourself in 30 seconds that are acceptable for small talk is really difficult, but unfortunately very important. And it does make a difference if you come up to a table knowing not only who the firm is, but who you are, and able to communicate all that very quickly and get straight down to the details of how do I apply? And showing effort really does help you stand out. You don't have to go too far out of your way, bend over backwards to, oh, here's 17 facts about your company because I am so in love with you guys and I am wearing my fanciest wedding regalia. Don't do any of that. Absolutely not. But showing up in more than just the green t-shirt that maybe you slept in and you woke up late to class because you're rushing, wearing at least something that's semi-professional and showing an effort to wait in line for these firms, showing an effort to have done that research really helps stand out, shows interest, and just makes the employers feel better about who they're talking to. So I'll conclude with this. The best thing to do is, in my opinion, go to every single one. You don't have to be searching for an internship or searching for a job at every single one, but learn what it's about, meet people, ask questions about the field, especially if there's a table where there's no real line, there's people just kind of sitting and waiting. There's no harm in going and asking questions. Hey, I'm not really looking for an internship right now. Maybe later down the line, what is it that you guys do? What do you do on a day-to-day basis? What's the life of a professional engineer like? And just having a little conversation. And once you are there, and once you're there for business, trying to get an internship, trying to land that job, do your research, come with some idea of who you want to talk to, have an idea of what you're going to say. Who are you? Who are you to the firm that you're talking to? Who is the firm you're talking to? You don't need to script this, but think about it. If you know a specific person that you're applying to, cover letters are good, but you'll save that for the application. You're not doing an application when you go there. You're meeting people and hopefully leaving a good impression. So to leave that good impression, itemize your experiences, have one or two things to talk about, have one or two questions. And if you're lucky, maybe the employer that you're trying to win over is someone that you've met before at a previous career fair. Be confident and go for it. With that, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. A little bit rough, a little bit of various audios that are coming together to make this happen. But thank you for sticking through. And let's go check in with Paul and Safia for the outro.
And we're back. Thank you, Xavier, for bringing us a lovely episode. I feel like it's a common question from prospective students about the career opportunities at USC, what they can really capitalize on once they get here. So I'm sure they're going to definitely appreciate this episode.
I hope so.
When you came to USC, Xavier, based on your perspective of coming out of high school, and Safia, feel free to jump in here on this one as well. When you heard about career fairs and you thought about them in concept before you went to one, what were you thinking you were going into, and what have you ended up learning about it that you know now that you didn't know, coming into college?
It's almost a little bit silly, but I was kind of imagining a dreary, slow affair in a gymnasium somewhere.
Oh, like a movie, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, where you have to drag your feet in and every minute is torture. And here it's outside, it's umbrellas, it's Sure, it's a long process, but it's really a lot of socializing. And when we get a nice day here in SoCal, it's a really pleasant experience. Granted, the most recent one, it was raining, but still a lot of students showed up, and it was good to see the commitment showing up in the rain with wet resumes and trying to put a jacket over your formal attire.
What, you don't make waterproof resumes, Xavier? Come
You have
on,
to
I
have the
thought you'd go.
lamination done and everything.
I'm I'm not quite a pro, unfortunately.
Walking around
They are
with
moving.
Ziploc bags.
A lot of firms are, instead of taking physical resumes, they have places to
QR
upload
code.
the file. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
lot of QR code now. It's a lot of taking pictures. So
Yeah.
don't bring as many physical resumes anymore.
I think I had a similar sentiment to Xavier when I first got to USC. I didn't really know what a career fair was. I just imagined like scary people in suits like asking me about what I had to offer them.
What do you
But it
want
was
to do in 5 years?
yeah,
Tell me.
but it was definitely more just having conversations with people, learning about different companies. It also just opened up my eyes to what was out there because I feel like when you first get to USC, especially as from my example, computer science student, you think that there's certain opportunities available. And then you get to career fair and you're like, wait, I could do CS at like a gaming company, at a beauty company, at like an entertainment company. Like there, you realize how many options are really out there once you get to an event like this.
Very cool. And who are some of the companies that were present that you've seen recently that you guys are thinking about? I think oftentimes a lot of our listeners and high school students and family members, and et cetera, are kind of wondering who's out there. And can you give us just a bullet point list, some of the exciting ones that you've seen recently or that you're thinking about?
Yeah, I could shout out some of the CE, environmental or civil engineering, especially construction, that I talked to recently. I've been looking at. So there's Gilbane Construction. There's a lot of big national firms that have heavy duty offices in downtown LA, and that would be Gilbane. They do construction, contracting. Kimley Horn. They're actually very spread out. They do a bit of contracting. They do a bit of design work. So, KPFF they have a lot of USC alumni. They actually have all the utility maps for USC. Anytime that there's utility project or questions about utilities, it goes directly to KPFF. They're like the USC consulting firm in terms of engineering. They've done a lot of projects. Both KPFF and Turner Construction did Ginsberg Hall, the very new CS building. Representatives from City of LA Engineering, Waterworks, LAX, which is Airport Authority, and then they're all there as well. So it's a mixture of public sector, private sector consulting firms. That's the CE side of things. Not so sure. Oh, I know Northrop Grumman as a mechie or aerospace person was there.
I think one that was really cool last year, especially after the Barbie movie had just come out, was Mattel because everyone was so excited. They were giving out like the free little, those skateboards you used to like play with your hands.
Oh my goodness!
They were giving those out. They're giving like little Barbies out. Like they were giving out all these like cool little things, and everyone was so excited because the Barbie movie had just come out. That was really cool to see.
That's awesome.
There's like Metatronic, which USC kids love. There's Epic, like the health tech, not the gaming company. I feel like everyone assumes it's the gaming company, but they have a really cool campus in Wisconsin. It literally looks like Hogwarts, like some of the rooms. So that was also cool to talk to them. What else is out there? There's honestly too many. Like it gets overwhelming sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, like trying to figure out which booths you want to go to, but there's honestly like endless options of companies to explore if that's something you're interested in.
I always find it interesting that people tend to gravitate toward or can only think about kind of this makes sense. It's just the brand name companies.
Yeah.
Where like, oh, I know that brand. I've interacted with that brand. I've seen that brand. But there are so many companies that you've never heard of. And they're hiring just as much, if sometimes more, than some of these bigger companies. And it's always important to keep that in mind that when you're going out there, like, oh, who's hiring civil engineers? Like, I don't know, Xavier, if you know this, but Intel almost always hires civil engineers.
Oh, that I did not know.
Check it out. And there are more and more types of companies that are what you would like. In other words, don't go into anything with a preconceived notion that a typical type of company is a typical type of major. More often than not, the best example, Intel is a great example of this, but also other companies are doing this as well, is that they want in-house civil engineers. to be on staff as they talk about further expansion and plant development and growth. They don't want to farm that out to other firms. They want kind of their own in-house team to at least take the lead on that. Visa, Visa as a company hires mechanical engineers. And because they need a lot of the ideas of understanding of thermodynamics and the understanding of heat transfer, because they're dealing with a bunch of server farms, they need to understand how to actually keep the cooling down on those computing facilities, and a lot of other work that's being done as mechanical engineers with heat transfer and thermodynamics. So just keep that in mind.
You should mention the data centers is a conversation that came up actually when I was talking to a USC alum who graduated from the school, studied chemical engineering, and then went on to go to sort of a contracting firm, and then ended up doing basically civil work with these data centers, because the education prepares you for the field in general. Even if like your specification is one thing, you might be able to do the other thing. There's so much learning on the job. So as long as you're willing to learn, you can kind of migrate over in whichever direction you'd like.
And then to your point, the engineering degree of any engineering degree is a degree in problem solving with a technical skill set on the back end, meaning that it's applicable to practically everything. So a lot of high school students, I think, feel like they have to know where they're going or be on a pathway to where they're going. And a lot of this will come over time, especially as corporations and careers and jobs and ideas evolve over time. The engineer is probably the most multifaceted and easily prepared, ready to go in any one of these elements. So that's ultimately what you're doing with an engineering degree. So it's good to know. Don't think that it's too defined or predefined, I should say. Cool. All right, guys. Well, I think that is enough chit chat on our end. We've definitely talked a lot about the Super Bowl on the front side of this. I don't think we need anything else on the back side. So we will let you all go, and we will be back next week with another brand new episode of Viterbi Voices. Bye-bye.